I'm Bill Gideon, and I would like to talk now about stress. Number one, the first thing we need to understand, what's the meaning of stress? You know the definition of stress, then it would be easy for you to understand about stress and the ongoing conversation about stress that we're gonna make. Okay, what is stress? As you understand what stress is an individual response to psychological or physical demand that causes pressure on an individual. It is an individual response to psychological and physical demand that causes pressure on the individual. Or in short terms, we can define stress as they are psycho they are psychological thoughts that bring pleasure to one, having disorders in mind that affect the person with pleasure. So that's according to me. Then the next thing we can know about stress is how many types of stress we have. Number one, we have eustress and we have distress. So the distress is the stress that is positive, and stress that is positive is a eustress. For example, you will have a stress to achieve a goal, that's a positive stress, and there is distress, which is a negative stress. For example, which stress about that is the stress that leads to mental illness, that's a distress, which is a positive, which is a negative stress. And a positive stress is the stress, right, to have stress to achieve something, your goal, your visions, that's the positive stress. Now we can come to what causes stress. Stress does not come itself, it comes use causes. So causes that cause stress, let me look. There is academic performance, there is peer pressure, there is stress in the home, and discrimination, stress of the job, joblessness, illness, and abuse. So how can this affect these causes? Academic performance will bring stress because you are failing, you are coming up with poor performance, you will have stress. You will have stress, a negative stress, which is distress. Stress in the home, how will it cause? Maybe your parents are fighting and fighting, or they're becoming drunkard every time, and they don't care about your little ones. So it becomes a stress and a negative stress, which is a distress. How could peer pressure affect you as stress? If you have good friends, you can develop eustress, which is a positive stress to achieve your better goals. But if you have bad companies, they will mislead you to do things which are unwanted in the society, which will make you to have distress, which is a negative stress. How could discrimination affect you? Discrimination, it will affect you in the way that because you feel you are unwanted, you are worthless, you will develop distress, which is a negative stress. This can develop later to depression. Then how can stress with a job affect you? Due to pressure from your employers or your heads, you will develop a negative stress because they are maybe harassing you, so it will bring you a negative stress. And how could joblessness affect you to develop a stress? So joblessness will develop you a stress in a way that you don't have job, or you don't have job, so you cannot earn any money. It will become a trouble to get your needs, so it becomes a stress, and a negative stress, which is a distress. Then illness like HIV/AIDS will bring you a distress because of the suffering or your health. This will affect you to develop a negative stress, which is a distress. And how can abuse develop stress? Abuse will develop a negative stress, which is a distress, in a way that people people abuse you. They say you are unworthy, your legs are violated, so you see you are lesser, you are not important, you are unworthy. You develop a negative stress. Effects of stress, which are these ones? It's health. Number one, how it interferes with your body functions, such as digestion and constipations and other stomach problems. One does not think clearly and is at a risk of driving himself or herself into an accident if driving machinery. So one can suffer also low self-esteem and have difficulty in enjoying things in life. Some lose interest in their appearances, e.g. they are not well, and so they cannot consider being hygienic. They will see it as a small thing. A person suffering from stress can become reluctant to engage in income generating activities. So somebody who's developing stress, it would be a problem to join in better activities that will generate money. A person suffering from stress may become difficulty to their work and related duties. This means that a person who's having stress or suffering from stress, it's difficult for them to perform their duties in a right way and in a better manner. Can lead to violent behavior. Stress can lead to violent behavior, for example, depression or committing suicide. Signs and symptoms of stress. One will need to know how he or she will know somebody has developed stress. So there are some signs and symptoms which one can see in order to recognize this person suffering from stress, yes or not, to be sure and to be aware. The signs and symptoms recommended are these. Number one, frequent stress and stomachaches. Number two, forgetfulness. Number three, inability to make decisions. Number four, sleepless nights. Number five, excessive sweating. Number six, rapid heartbeat. Start. Number one, frequent stress and stomachaches. Two, forgetfulness. Three, inability to make decisions. Four, sleepless nights. Five, excessive sweating. Six, rapid heartbeat. Why should we cope with stress, or in other words, why should we manage our stress? Number one, we should manage our stress because stress can lead to mental illness, which after suffering can lead to demand or use of much money in healthy treatment. For example, when we become depressed, they will need to be taken to a rehabilitation center where they are gonna be made to cope with their stress, and much will be demanded for their treatment. Number two, not coping with stress, it leads to poor performance, where in school or in job. Number three, poor performance leads to truance. What is truance? It's the school dropping out. For students, they can drop out from school if they are having stress, and the stress is not managed as early as possible. Yes, it leads to mental illness. For example, it can lead also to depression. That's another reason why to cope with stress. It builds your self-esteem, whereby you can gain control over your stress, and you can build a positive life. The other one is not coping with stress can lead into interpersonal conflict. Which is this interpersonal conflict? Interpersonal conflict is conflict among yourself. So if you cannot cope with stress, you will have stress among yourself, and you will have conflict with yourself. You should be conflicting yourself for this and that. For example, blaming you in this and that. Ways of coping with stress. How can you cope with stress or manage your stress? Number one, you should set realistic goals. Number two, organize your life. Number three, learn to say no to things that will add you stress. Number four, entertainment. Number five, help others in a way that will give you a chance to help people in the community. At least your stress will be lowered down, and it will decline as time goes by. Sharing experiences, engaging in creative activities. Number 8, avoiding peer pressures, bad companies that can mislead you to do things which are against the community norms and develop your stress. Let's come to values associated with stress. Number 1 is tolerance. When you have tolerance, you do not easily get offended by things which people say or talk, and that one, it will help you not to develop stress. Number 2 is freedom. People with this value of freedom, they are free, and they are easily not into pressures of others. Cooperation. By combining all your efforts and making your task to be relieved, it will be easier to release our pressure in ourselves and be simple and be free. Then humility. When you humble yourself, so it will help you keep away from things that will make you develop stress. There are many other values like honesty, friendliness, many other values, responsibility, many. So, for example, you can see someone else become mad, maybe remove the clothes, walking on the road. It doesn't mean that person is mad. Maybe that person have had a stress which is negative, and it have developed without knowing, or knowing it have developed because it did not cope with it earlier, so it afraid to mental illness which have affected him, maybe to correct rubbish on the road, or remove the clothes and become insane. So if you see people like those, don't make fun of them. You become friendly. You try to cope their stress, and everything comes into hand and will become alright. Talk to them in a way they see that they are appreciated, they are tolerated, and they are worth. They feel worth of themselves, not to see that they are worthless and useless to people. Talk to them in a humble way, tolerate them, share with them, stand with them, and cope with their stress. They will become well again. So, there a little summary of what I've made all through. So, some of the questions that I have here are: what is post-traumatic stress disorder? What is post-traumatic stress disorder? Is the disorder driven by pathogenic memories of past danger. It is the disorder driven by pathogenic memories of past order. Causes of stress is called stress. Give example of stress and demonstrate ways of stress management. Example of stress is psychological stress, there is social stress, and physical stress. So, psychological stress as strong emotions that are being caused by external or internal stress. Psychological stress are strong emotions brought by internal stress or external stress. Social stress are caused by interactions with one another. Physical stress, they are caused by external factors. So, how could you manage your stress? Number one is by setting realistic goals. Number two is entertainment. Number three, say no to things that add you more stress. Number four is organizing your life by having schedule of activities and many others. Give example of positive stress. Positive stress is a stress that will benefit you, that cannot bring harm to your psychology or to your mind. So positive stress is like marriage, having a child or children, having a job, sharing or interacting with friends, and that's all. This is stress management in life skills, and it will help somebody who is suffering from stress to cope with stress and come with a positive life. Say no to negative stress, which is distress. Thanks for having a class with me, Baron Gideon. Bye bye, see you next time.